Hi, friends. Welcome back to my
Hey,
show. My
friend.
name's Ashley Aireonna, and I'm here today with Jose Sanchez. I hope everyone's having a really good Thursday. There's a little bit, I don't know if you would call it breaking news, but practice for the 49ers just happened, and Brock Purdy, who yesterday, Kyle Shanahan also nonchalantly just slipped into the end of the injury list that Brock Purdy had a concussion and was in concussion protocol, which I think a lot of people then assumed, okay, he's not going to be able to play against the Bengals because was it Adam Schefter who tweeted out that no player this year has entered the concussion
Which
protocol,
was
and
false.
then that's false.
It's definitely false. There's been several
Schefter.
players. There's been several players, but then he backtracked and started saying like,
Oh,
okay, fine. To cover his tracks, he basically did another tweet. It's like, okay, but in the last for the last years, however many years, let's just say
yeah,
5. It's like 5 years. 25% of players who are in concussion protocol play that same week. And because
yeah,
Purdy got hurt Monday, right, it makes it probably puts him more towards that
back
75%
even
than
more.
25, but you never know
I
with
totally understand.
concussions. Everyone's different. It's not like with the torn ACL where we know 6 to 12 months. With a freaking concussion, like you can be back in like 2-3 days.
Yeah, definitely. Um, well, uh, someone said that Kenny Pickett was the last quarterback that came back within the same week, and that was last year in Week 6. But the NFL put out like a statement saying to be more strict on concussions this year, especially I think because of everything that happened with Tua last year. So a lot of people were hypothesizing that it would be nearly impossible for Brock Purdy to be back by Sunday. But today he was practicing, so I thought it would be interesting. I looked up the 5 steps for the concussion protocol. You have to go through all 5 of them in order to get cleared. And the first one is just symptom limited activity. So like don't do any football related activity, but just can you walk around by yourself? Like, are you okay in that way? Second is aerobic exercise, which is like supervised cardio and light stretching. Third would be football specific activity. So you can do like 30 minutes of cardio and maybe like some throwing, stuff
It's
like
probably
that.
today that he did, right?
I think I'm gonna say I think he's in step or phase 4, which would actually be like super. You'd be going through this super quickly, which is club-based non-contact
Mm-hmm.
drill activity. Which from all the practice reports and the videos that we've seen, he was wearing a black jersey, which means like he can't be quarterbacks can never be tackled, but like no contact at all. But he was out there throwing the ball, at least in the portion that the media was present. Now that could be some gamesmanship, maybe, but I'm hypothesizing he's either in step 3 or step 4, which we need to like drink whatever Brock Purdy is drinking, like his elbow. He came back hella quick. Aaron Rodgers was over here like watching whales kiss to try to heal faster. Did you hear him say that on
Yeah,
the
something
beat?
about that. Something about Wales healing him. That guy is such a quack.
Yeah. Apparently, he just needs to call it Brock Purdy because this kid, like in the Shanahan system, everyone has setbacks. Knock on wood, and he's just always like the best possible solution. So number 4 is club-based non-contact training drills activity. And then 5 is once he's cleared by the team doctors, he has to be seen by an independent neurologist just to make sure that the team isn't like trying to push him through or anything like that. Um, what you were saying earlier is true. Like it could have been a mild concussion, and there's no time frame for these steps. It's not like one day at a time. It's as like from what I've seen, you can get through these steps as soon as possible, like if you're clearing them. So if it was something that maybe like affected him for a couple minutes, maybe he felt a little woozy on the plane or couldn't remember parts of the game, he would have had to report, but he could technically be feeling 100% better now. We obviously aren't his body and don't know. And I was going to ask you, do you assume that Brock Purdy is being honest and feeling better? Or with all the, because there's been a lot of media speculation, do you think potentially he could be like, I'm fine, maybe feeling a little heat, not wanting to Sam Darnold to come on, Brock Purdy practicing today?
Um, yeah, I don't see any reason why to believe that he's lying or anything like that. I'm being genuine and everything. Yeah, I don't think it definitely was a rush to conclusion. Like Darnold's going to start or most likely going to start, but that was mainly because of Adam Schefter. It's like, well, now puts him unlikely to start because again, he's putting Schefter's buying into the odds, and I'm an odds guy. As someone who likes to gamble here and there a little bit, is like he's like, all right, I'm gonna
Are
take.
you like really bad? Every time we talk, you've lost.
Okay, not just sports. I mean, my
Sorry.
favorite thing is like craps or something like that, or blackjack, like that.
Okay.
Those ones that actually like more like, but whatever, more fun to me. Is that he's probably buying into that 75 percentile of okay, he's probably not going to play, and then this year it's not looking that trendy either. But it's like, you know, he's already back. I already saw the clip that he's like throwing on the field. At this point it's like, okay, yeah, he's definitely going to play. I feel confident he's going to play. I probably put out like a 90% chance he's going to play. Right. But in a way, I wanted to see Sam Darnold play just for the discourse. You know, of course, you know, when you're a writer and like you have things to talk about, that's kind of what you wanted to see. But I think if Sam Darnold were to play, then I think the Niners definitely were going to lose that game because you got the Bengals coming off a bye week. You know, you're the 49ers.
I'm gonna
playing like right.
Hey. Right there.
Now we're back.
Are you all good?
Mm-hmm.
Was it my fault? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's your fault. My internet's impeccable.
I was excited when I first did my little starting my stream. I did a speed internet check, and I was like on the phone with Chris Roscoe from Twitter, and he was like telling me if it was good or not, and he was like, "Oh, that's really good," and I was like, "Hell yeah!" Give me my internet. Felt so cool.
You don't even know what your internet package is at your house, do you?
I have no idea what it is. I just like pay a bill monthly.
All right, some shit.
I just Venmo my roommate like $45.
Here you go. Take care of it.
Which I feel like is expensive for internet. If there's like 3 of us.
Yeah, they're taxing.
You were saying Brock Purdy. You're excited. You wanted some discourse.
Yeah, some discourse is Darnold to play. I don't think he's gonna play. If he had played, though, it would have probably been a Niners loss to the Bengals. And even with Purdy, I think it's going to be a little tough. I know the Bengals aren't looking as great this year, but again, you coming off that bye week. You know, when's the last time the 49ers played a team off a bye week? The Browns. And people wonder why they were so locked into that game versus the Colts this past week. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of the same thing how I talked about with you last week. It's like, hey, when you're the 49ers, you're watching getting hyped for the Cowboys. It's not the same as getting hyped for the Browns. When you're the Browns getting hyped for the 49ers off a bye, like you're pretty much slaying the beast versus the Colts. Come on, that's not the same. This is real. Yeah. Like, you know, it's like I'm excited for this. I'm excited for this for Saturday and not Friday. You know, whatever the analogy you want that works for you. So, yeah, Purdy after that video, I think he's gonna play, and I'm not too worried about it.
I would put it. I want to say like 70% because I think there could still be like gamesmanship going on because the media doesn't stay for the whole time, right?
No, they're there for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, so like what if they're just like letting Brock Purdy do like the basic
intro? 1,000% they're doing that. We saw it last week, remember?
Yeah, they dropped all the injury news. Like
I think I said that was gonna happen. I was like, watch, if even if it is hurt, they're not gonna say anything until like later.
Yeah. That's what they do. So I feel like they could be doing that. I feel like get them, let the Bengals prepare for Brock Purdy. And I know that you think it could be a loss, but I think Kyle Shanahan is a determined guy, and as someone who likes to, set her sights on things and make it happen, if he wants Sam Darnold to look good, I feel like this is where we're going to see, like, I thought last week he was going to come out and prove everyone wrong and be like, hey, I can do it without all these players. Now, Trent Williams wasn't practicing today, which is, could throw a wrench into everything because Kyle Shanahan can scheme up as great as possible, but if Sam Darnold has pressure in his face, he has a tendency to
Well, I don't know. That left side last week was not an issue at all. They were fine with Jalen Moore last week. It was Colton McKivitz who looked poo-poo. Like, he was the worst one there.
Yeah. And Burford's been struggling this year. Hardcore.
Well, that right side was always going to be a question mark, right? So, I mean, at least it's not his blind side. That's why it's like Kittle's getting used for, like, chips, and then he goes out for, like, underneath stuff.
Kittle needs to be used more. But really quick, back to Brock Purdy. I was listening to Fred Warner's podcast that he does with his wife, who is so pretty and cool, by the way. Follow her on TikTok. Someone commented, and they were like, you sound just like her. And I was like, I've never been more complimented. Although I think they were trying to mean it as an insult, because she definitely has, like, some, like, SoCal vocal fry, which I actually don't think I have, but she's really pretty, so I was like, whatever.
I don't know.
But anyways, so he said that after back-to-back losses that people are going to want to have a scapegoat, and that people who don't understand football and don't play football always want to blame the quarterback. He said that he has Brock Purdy's back, and that he stole Kyle Shanahan's comment and called Purdy the real deal, and said that he actually thought his game against Minnesota was one of his best games, and that anyone who didn't see that doesn't know football, and that the team is 100% behind Brock Purdy and believes in him. I found that kind of interesting. Going into the fourth quarter, Brock Purdy was 16 of 19 for 84%. He had 1 touchdown and 214 yards. Then in the fourth quarter, he was 5 for 11 for 2 interceptions. So definitely a nosedive in the most important moments. But what do you think about Fred Warner sticking up for his quarterback? Is that just normal teamsmanship? Is that a word?
Yeah, it's a word, pretty much.
Yeah. What do you think of those comments from Fred Warner?
Yeah, I didn't look at that game and thought Brock Purdy was the issue. Whoa, what the hell is going on? Can you hear that?
Yeah. Is there like a shower behind you?
No, there's someone who wants to start vacuuming. Is it that big of a deal right now?
No.
Can you actually? No, be honest. Can you actually hear it?
No, I promise.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I could hear it for like 1 second, but I can't hear it now.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. That's good to know.
I do see the hole in your wall.
Well, not that. That's more of the issue. It's the freaking Okay, there we go. Now the noise is back down. Gotta tell roommates here to shut up. Anyways, in terms of him saying that, look, I didn't look at that game and thought Purdy was the issue. And plus, at that, when you know stats, how many was that? Probably when he was concussed, when he was throwing a lot of stuff. So that's something you can take into account for.
It depends on. Okay, I have a question for you, because everyone's pointing to the, what is it, tush push, the little
when he got speared in the head, like Edge from WWE.
Yes. But okay. Well, I don't follow that, so I don't know what that means. But I imagine that means brutal hit, because it looked very brutal.
Yeah, it was brutal.
But okay, they don't actually know when it happened. And if you listen to when Kyle Shanahan said that it could have happened like that, the media member like completely prompted Kyle Shanahan. Like Shanahan was like, we don't know. And then the guy like followed up and was like, oh, could it have been on this? And he was like, yeah, like maybe. Like it wasn't like he was like, this is definitely the play. Like he did not feel symptoms.
Right, yeah. It's just more likely because he got hammered like right there. And it's like, all right, what are the odds he actually got hurt elsewhere? And the thing is about concussions too, is like, you could feel effects the next day, and you could have been fine that moment and feel the effects the next day. That's why it happened so late. So that's why I was like, was the concussion really that issue? Because I remember when the one time I got concussed, I felt that stuff immediately, and I was like feeling like death the next 3 days. But I do know people who were like, yeah, I took a hit, and the next morning, I was like, holy crap! Like they were throwing up, the dark, all this lights were hurting his eyes, stuff like that. So who knows if that was the case? Like me, I'll probably play credence to that in terms of like, because I did see a stat that he was, after that hit specifically that you talked about, he was 2 for 6, and that's when he threw his 2 picks. But even aside from that, before the fourth quarter, he was playing solid. I had no complaints about him. Yeah, did he miss some throws, and could he have found better players and stuff like that? Sure. But that's kind of been his case, like even when he's doing good. My thing,
he seemed very normal up until it seemed like a very average Brock Purdy game up until that
I think if anything, first of all, that the defense is the story of that game. My God, they looked horrendous, because in a game when you're facing an offense that's missing the best receiver in the game, and they pretty much have nobodies, right? They have nobodies.
Kirk Cousins isn't supposed to look like Patrick Mahomes on primetime? That's crazy.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins looked like the best player in the league on that Thursday. It's like, Jesus, like every week. So that's on the defense and Steve Wilks. And
that Kyle Shanahan, like deep in his little black heart, he was like a little proud. Like he was like Matt. He was like, I hate Wilks, and
I gotta trade for this guy.
Blah. But then like deep down, he was like, there you go. I don't know how boys do it, but they're like, this was up. This was up, guys.
Well, no, I would say I'd blame. I'd put more blame on Kyle Shanahan in that game, especially after looking it back. I'm like, Brock really didn't play that bad, but why is Kyle so? And it's funny how you mentioned the word Kyle this week going to Cincinnati being determined. And I'm thinking like, yeah, he's so determined that he becomes stubborn. And it's like his identity, the same way that Wilks, his identity is blitzing and kind of gets stubborn. It's like, I have to stick by this blitzing. This is my wrinkle. Kyle Shanahan stubborn with running the ball. It's like, bro, this is 3rd week in a row. Your run game sucks. You're ineffective. You can't do anything. So,
You
boom,
predicted my little
it's just
thing.
running game, rushing game. So, boom, a perfect transition, right? It's like, I think I put a stat. I combined the amount of yards and carries that McCaffrey has gotten since the Cowboys game. He's averaging 3 yards a carry. That's putrid for an all-pro running back. This last game, I actually suggested that, all right, if you guys are going to willingly risk McCaffrey out there, who I said should a sat, and I think we agreed, and we look like quacks after that, is use him as a receiver. And guess what? He had his best play of the game as a receiver. So my thing was, why don't you incorporate him more as a receiver? Especially maybe now I'm thinking, why don't you use him more going forward as a receiver? Give him 12 or 15 carries, maybe 10 to 15, and give Mason 6 to 8, Mitchell 2 to 3, whatever combination you want to use.
Averages 6 yards a carry and did not get a carry last game, by the way.
That's part of the stubbornness, right?
One.
It's like, I'm going to keep running even though it's not working. I'm going to keep running McCaffrey because, like, look, I get it. We all know McCaffrey's sweet. A toddler knows he's amazing. But at some point, look, we can watch the game and be like, this is not working. Like, this is literally not working. There's no analytics that are going to, dude, the passing was working. Why don't you? It reminds me, like, back at the Atlanta game last year when it's like, look, I know Jimmy Garoppolo is such a volatile quarterback, but that game, he was actually throwing the pill pretty nicely. Why not try to throw more with him? In this case, the running game's not working. Why not try to throw? And it's like Kyle does not acknowledge the pass. And I don't even think that's like a knock against Purdy. It was like, I don't trust Purdy to throw the ball. It's just, I just love the running game so much. And I just want to keep doing this. He's like opposite of Andy Reid, where I'm going to run the ball 50 times. Andy Reid wants to throw the ball 50 times. So it's like, but even at least Andy knows, like, hey, I got to spot check with some runs here to really like alleviate the throwing or just keep him honest. And it's just like, just over and over again, just running McCaffrey. And this is part of the McCaffrey running into the ground part. It's like, dude, he has nowhere to run.
And like when confronted about this fact, he's like, Kyle Shanahan is completely blind. Like, he's like, I see no problem with his usage
because he knows better. Again, it's like when you're getting asked questions from like 50-year-old Eric Branch, it's like, dude, Branch, what the hell do you know? Stuff like that. They get because that's the arrogance of them.
Shouts at Eric Branch.
That's what he is, a 50-year-old. That's what I know, and I know from people who work for these teams. Like, it's like, dude, you got to think about how these players, especially coming off their loss, and these coaches, like, this is their field. They're getting asked by people who don't, quote unquote, know shit. And it's like, at least compared to them, right? In retrospect.
Was it you that I was talking about? I'm side noting it, but was it you that I was talking? Like, I feel like the first 5 weeks when they were, totally winning, and it looked like Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan were on their honeymoon, and he was so happy to have Christian McCaffrey. I was like, look at his energy. Like, he's shifted. He's a new person. He talked about reading self-help books. Like, this is a new coach. And you were like, wait till they lose, then determine.
Especially in the
last life advice. It's good life advice. Like, we should evaluate people in times of like crisis and down. Like, how do they treat people? We shouldn't be like, oh, look, like they just won the lottery. They seem like really nice, happy people. It's like, okay, well, are you gonna give a homeless person $1 if you only have 5?
Right.
Ooh, look at me getting philosophical on YouTube. Anyways, back to the rushing game. Do you have an issue? Because I think a lot of people have given the excuse of not using Jordan Mason as he is like inefficient in pass pro, and then he doesn't know his assignments really well. Against the Browns, he like lined up in the wrong spot a couple times, stuff like that. And so people were like hypothesizing, okay, because he can't do that, that's why he's not on the field. I have 2 questions / complaints about that. One, they were doing a lot of like 2-back system against the Vikings where they had Mitchell and CMC. Yeah, so why couldn't they do Mason and CMC? Because then you can run Mason and you can have CMC do that. And then 2, you can't use Jordan Mason not knowing the like offense or the pass protection well enough as an excuse. You're the coach. If he doesn't know that, that reflects poorly on you. Like, he's been on the team for 2 years. Why doesn't he know what he's doing? Like, no one has sat with him
and just don't use him there. Like, just don't use him there. How about as simple as that? Just don't use him there.
I think people's argument back to that would be like, then you're telling the other team that you're going to run the ball. But also, at the end of the game, you know that at the end of the game, when the other team knows that there's been game time where the other team has known that all the 49ers are going to do is run the ball, and Jordan Mason still gets carries. But I just think it's like that's a flaw in the coaching system. Like, that reflects back poorly on you. If I used to teach elementary school, if like my kid didn't know like 2 times 2, they wouldn't be like, this kid is stupid. They'd be like, teacher, like, why didn't you tell them that 2 plus, so.
Yeah, no, I think that plays into the stubbornness again, right? It's just like I love my guys and just stuff like that. And it's like, bro, like we get it, you love your guys, but it's like, don't play them out there. I mean, I don't know. I don't. It's kind of funny that we're like talking about why can't you get your running back 2/3 more carries, and it's like, what are we even talking about here? It's like, but no, we're talking about it because we saw Mason run pretty sweet against the Cowboys, and I know that game at that part of the game, it was pretty much out of reach by the time he came in. But he runs hard and gives a nice change of pace. Like, to me, I always loved looking back to 2019 for the 49ers rushing attack is they went with a trio of backs, right? Or a duo. At the beginning of the season, it was Coleman, Breida, then it was Breida, Mostert, then it was Mostert, and then Coleman at the end. Where, I know McCaffrey is significantly better than any backs he's had, but there's got to be somewhere a little bit of a balance. I feel like if you take at least 3 to 5 carries away, given to Mason, it'll help the offense in a way, and then McCaffrey better rested, it'll probably surcharge him or it'll probably
be
boost
more
him up
efficient
to give him maybe more of like bigger chunk yard gains versus just keep smashing into a castle wall with your batting ram. It's like, bro, it's like it's at some point if it's not work again, if it was working, it's doing fine like it was like the first 4 games. All right, cool. But it's not working. So if
you're like, now he's hurt and it's not efficient. So
if something's not working and you're in anything like and you have clear evidence like, okay, it hasn't worked 10, 15 times. Let's do it a 16 to 18 more times. Maybe it'll work more. Like, no, like, come on. At that point, that's
okay.
on you.
See, now I'm empathizing with Kyle Shanahan. I'm like big, what's that quote? Like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result. I feel like I'm like that. Like, you know how they're like, oh, like you touch the hot stove and you learn the lesson. I have to touch the hot stove. I have to touch the hot stove like 10 times before I get it. I'm like, damn, like that really hurts. And like everyone else is staring, like, didn't you already do this? So maybe I empathize a little bit with Kyle Shanahan on that. Why? Okay, I can understand. We understand that Kyle loves Christian McCaffrey, whether or not it's effective or not. He loves Christian McCaffrey. Why is Elijah Mitchell getting time over Jordan Mason right now?
Loves him. He's infatuated with him. I just think it's simple as that. He loves him. When Kyle Shanahan's infatuated with a player, they can do no wrong. And with Mitchell, he just chalks it up pretty much to injuries, right? I mean, I don't look on that carry he got. It kind of felt like he had nowhere to go, but it also looked like he came up to the line of scrimmage slow. So look, I'll say that it's not just totally always like McCaffrey's not running well. I think as part of it is like the run blocking is kind of being consistent too right now, especially like we just said that right side. I feel like McKivitz can do nothing right at this point. I feel like McKivitz run blocking is the worst right now. It's crazy, but yeah, it's definitely part of that. But I don't know. I just feel like if you have someone who's clearly been more, like I've been saying, more reliable, dependable, and efficient, why not just go with that guy who's younger and like has his arrow pointing up? Because Mitchell, for all we know, on that one carry, could have got hurt. That was one thing for me. It was like, is he hurt? Like as soon as he got hurt, as soon as he got tackled, I was like, is he probably hurt? And then, okay, no, he got up. That's what I'm questioning every single time. That's not good because that's how injury prone he is.
So scary. It's so scary. And I feel bad. Like his rookie year, he was a really amazing running back, but he's also
and he only played 12 games that year, I think.
Yeah,
10,
yeah,
12, 11.
But like, it's like you were saying with Christian McCaffrey. If they were overusing him, I mean, I would still criticize it because I don't think you should overuse him until the end. But if it was effective, you could like understand more. With Mitchell, it's like also not as effective as Mason, so it's just very frustrating. But moving on, while we're talking about Kyle Shanahan and criticisms of him, Jose, are you there? Is this me? This is the second time. Jose,
back.
Will he come back? Oh, sick. Okay. Speaking of Kyle Shanahan, he had comments about Steve Wilks. When it came to that 0 blitz call with 16 seconds left in the first half, Kyle Shanahan was asked about it, and he kind of was like, told the media, he said, you guys are going to talk to him tomorrow. He knows that it was unacceptable. I don't have a problem with calling blitz, but I have a problem with it when you're calling it with 16 seconds left in the game. And he knows that he made a mistake on that call and that should never happen again. He was pretty harsh when addressing it. Nick Bosa also was asked kind of about his lack of, he was asked about like the defense struggling, and he alluded to the difference in scheme that Steve Wilks is using.
We used to just rush forward.
Yes. And then today, Steve Wilks kind of had his hat in his hand and apologized for his play call. Do you think that Kyle Shanahan is throwing Steve Wilks under the bus? Do you think the criticism is warranted? How did you feel about that call and how it's been talked about since?
No, it was warranted. He has to hold his coordinators accountable because that's not 49ers defensive football. I haven't seen I can't recall a big play like that, especially like in such a critical situation. The 49ers have let up in, God, I can't tell you when for a touchdown pass. And that's in a situation like that. Like I can't think of one. Like that was kind of inexcusable. And again, there's going to be a take of like, well, if Ward makes that pick, we're not talking about it. Yeah, sure. And he messed up and he needs to be thrown under the bus as well. Cause that was pretty pathetic that he failed that. Like as a corner, it's like,
but
dude,
it's also like
that.
Corner versus wide receiver. And we're like, you know what I mean? You got to put your guys in a better position than that. Like 90% of the time,
to me,
the
it's
wide
like,
receiver is going to be the one that catches the ball. That's why Ward is a corner.
Yep. But yeah, so of course he gets blamed for that. And but I think ultimately it's just like you said, the situation is like 16 seconds left. It's third down. All we need is just play coverage and make him dump it off to burn time. I don't know if Vikings had a timeout. Maybe they had one timeout, but the point is just throw it short because they still have a good length of the field to go just to barely get in field goal range. So to me, it's like, make him work for it. But that wasn't the case at all game. Like, it wasn't even just that situation. It was like, it felt like everyone was always open, like a solid 5 to 10 yards, and then they would get a little extra yak. And it's like, dude, at some point, like, just plug your players in these zones, stop blitzing as much. Like, it's clear, like, the blitz is not working. What I just said about Kyle Shanahan is like, yo, McCaffrey and the overall bashing the Reddit game is not working. Wilks, look at the game. You're up there in the booth for a reason. You get a better look. It's not working too often. Maybe dial it back a little bit, play more coverage. And, like you said, like read my article and Kyle Shanahan, what he talked about specifically today not today. Yesterday, he gave a piece of why he thinks Bosa's numbers are down. And he says, like, look, when the pass rush is good, our secondary isn't. And when our secondary is good, our pass rush isn't. So they're not in lockstep with each other. They're not playing complementary football in that sense. And to me, I think it makes perfect sense. Like the same thing with Bosa's comments. We're not rushing but because we're not having so much just playing like Loctite coverage and forcing them to try to forcing the quarterback to hold on longer and try to scan, it gives us less time to operate to work with. I think I saw someone put a stat out there, which is not too significant. I think the Niners opposing quarterbacks against the Niners defense had 2.7 seconds to throw. And this year they have 2.5 or less, which, it's 0.2 seconds. It's like, yeah, but there's probably a couple games that are skewing it heavily. Like the Rams game specifically. I bet you Stafford was averaged 2.1 because that's how fast it felt like he was getting out the ball that game. So, I mean, they're doing that because there's open leverages. And I think that's part of the thing when you play man or just soft zone or something like that. And D'Amico had that issue too last year, right? How many times he would tell his receivers to play 8 yards off, and it's like they're just going to keep throwing slants all day, D'Amico. Put them up there and then
walking down the field.
So yeah, at that point, it's like we got to mitigate those big plays and give our pass rush a chance. They're getting highly paid for a reason. Let them go earn it. So I think in that terms, like there's no problem blitzing a little more. But there's a time and a place for everything. If it's not working throughout the game, dial it back. And situationally, we got to be smarter. Maybe that'll free up Bosa and hopefully fix Wilks' issue so far.
Can I ask you a question? When I was watching Kirk Cousins, it looked like he was calling the defense. Like he looked like he knew exactly where to throw the ball every single time. Is that just like a lack of disguises by Steve Wilks? Is that something on film where his defense is like extremely predictable right now? Kirk Cousins didn't look uncomfortable once. He didn't get sacked, but even like if he had pressure in his face, it seemed like he knew exactly where the opening was going to be. Did Kirk Cousins just ball out, or do you think that that's something that maybe the Vikings picked up on film that potentially the Bengals could pick up if these things aren't adjusted?
Yeah, that's for sure something that they probably pointed out. Yeah, at least it played a little bit of factor, right? At the very least, film, and then also, Kirk probably has more trust from Kevin O'Connell that he probably has like a play or 2 or even 3 that he could audible to. So once he sees things, and that's why like offenses like to run motion, right? And I'm not sure if the Vikings really ran that much of it. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that's why offenses like to run a lot of motions, right? They like to see if the player's trailing to indicate is it man or zone or what's their alignment at or something like that. So there's probably some tells in film, and especially in the game where Kirk's probably checking the plays, or he knows where he's going to go now from a hot read to a secondary, whatever the case may be. He has options. And, I think that's a little bit of lack of creativity. That goes back to Wilks again and why Bosa's not getting there and other players not getting there. And then since this is a Bosa topic, I mean, where's Eric Armstead? Where are all these other players at that are helping him? There's
Where's
no
Hargrave?
help.
Like,
I mean,
why
Hargrave
is
has
Randy...
some sacks, but he kind of seems like he's more like I mean, I don't think he sacked the quarterback in the last 2 weeks, but like the first 4 or 5 games, he probably has like what, 3.5 sacks, which is solid. But it's like, where's everyone else at? I know Hargrave, though. I haven't looked in 2 weeks, but in defensive tackles, he was in the top 10. He might have been actually top 3, top 5 most double teamed defensive tackle in the league. So you have him along with Bosa.
I feel like that has to stop being an excuse. Like, a lot of people give that for Bosa. Like, they talk about how much he's double teamed. TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, all those players are double teamed.
And Bosa's learning how to be. So it's not just him, though. It's like, because I remember that happened. That was an issue last year or 2 years ago. And D'Amico Ryans actually said, like, well, Bosa's got to figure it out. So it's part of Bosa, but it's also like, let's maybe flip Bosa on the other side. Maybe let's stun him more. Again, I don't know the numbers because when the play is going on, I don't typically just focus on the defensive line unless I'm watching it back. But like, that also goes back to Wilks as well. It's like, are you freeing up are you and Sarah doing something that's getting these guys alignment different? Are you stunning them? Or what are you guys doing to just, it feels like they're just saying like, all right, line up, get after him, like figure it out. And it's like, okay, like the coaches are supposed to help, like we said, put your players in a position to excel. And it doesn't feel like that's what's going on right now, which of course Bosa maybe, having that holdout is playing a part, which he admitted to, I think yesterday. It's like, it's like, I'm
finally
still, which makes sense.
He should have some questions about that. I feel like
it does make sense for sure that that's part of it. So I think it's like, it's not just 1 or 2 things. It feels like it's more like 3 or 4 or 5 things that's going on with everything. Yes. But again, none of you panic. They're 5-2. It's just again, it's bad loss because versus the Browns game. Because like this one is like, dude, they didn't have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Look, I love Jordan Addison. He had not been a factor this season yet. He's had drops. He doesn't look like he's running routes. And he went out there and just looked like, if you had said that was Justin Jefferson out there, took the last name and number off, I would have believed you because that's what they made him look like, which is pathetic.
Lastly, when it comes to the defense, I wanted to ask you if maybe you would know why. The 49ers used to be a top 10 under both Saleh and D'Amico run defense. And right now they are 23rd, so bottom 10. And they added Hargrave this year. So why have they gotten worse? Is that the same explanation with the secondary front four? What's going on with that? Why can't they stop the run all of a sudden?
Yeah, I think I saw my boy Akash tweet the other day about like the Niners are dead last in run defense on third down, meaning like if you run the ball on third down, then they're going to get it, which, if it's 3rd and 10, I doubt that's the case. But I think that just goes to show that they're not doing good on the early downs. The running backs are getting like a good 3 to 5 yards and they're just mashing it. I think it's not anything that's going straight towards the middle either. It's always just like cut back into the C gap or go outside to the D gap. It's just a lot of just cut where there's some over pursuing. There's no ends holding on to things. Right. And maybe that plays a part in blitz as well.
Is like out of sync.
Yeah, it feels like a little bit of lack of discipline, a little bit.
Not even a little. The 49ers, I feel like they've struggled with penalties on both sides of the ball. This is like off topic-ish, but I was so frustrated with the amount of like false starts that the 49ers had last game, coming out of the 2-minute drill, coming out of a
They called a timeout after a 2-minute drill, which is pretty embarrassing. It's like, you just had a timeout. What are you calling timeout again for?
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh vibes, right? Like all the time, and that was one of the top 3 issues of that team. That was always like 3 delay games was a guarantee. It felt like
exactly. So not ideal with Nick Bosa and with that defense. Now, how are you feeling about this upcoming Bengals game if Brock Purdy plays, but if Trent Williams is out? Do you think Trent Williams will be out? He's not practicing.
I think he's going to be out. If he's missed already, I mean, he's already up there in age.
But he's that same way where, like Kyle said, even if Purdy doesn't practice all week, that he could play. Trent Williams could be like that too. I thought that they were going to hold him out last game because of the turf. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I just think because he's such an older player, and now you're going to throw him out there against Trey Hendrickson and company, that's like, I feels demanding and I doubt he's going to be fully fit. I don't think he's going to play. But even if he does, like, I'm not too confident in the 49ers winning this game. I'm just not. You got the Bengals coming off a bye week. Again, aside from like 1 game or 2, One game, I'd say definitely. They haven't really looked great. So that's the one thing you got on them. But you're a team that you're coming off a short week.
And
You
they're
are
like
looking beat
excited.
up 2 weeks. Like last 2 weeks, like I would say, like I'd say right now the 49ers are hitting that little bit of fatigueness towards the season, especially if you consider like the Cowboys game. I mean, I know they're beating down the Cowboys, but that was still like a pretty much a big battle where like you're really putting your body on the line. So that's 3 hefty battles that you've been in, and now you're gonna come face a team that's freshly rested, who's had time to study you.
Yeah.
I feel like right now the Niners are leaking a little bit of oil, and right now is not a good time to be facing the Bengals, who are coming off a bye. I think it's gonna be a close game, but I think the Niners are gonna lose this one.
Especially like who's going to be on Chase? Is it going to be Ward? Ward has been disappointing recently. I feel like he's gotten mossed.
This is a game where you're the 49ers where you dialed back the blitzing 1,000%. Like, don't do it because it's not just Chase. I mean, I know T. Higgins has looked disgusting this year. He's been bad, but this is a perfect breakout game for him.
Yeah.
Chase is still there. Tyler Boyd is capable. This is a nightmare because like look, the Niners secondary gets propped up, gets kind of belittled more than it should be. But when you're facing a team that has 3 capable receivers, that's tough. I'm not worried about the Bengals run game because the Bengals cannot run the ball and mix
they're like
whatever. It's that passing game. If the Bengals are smart, they'll study what the Kirk Cousins, the Vikings
Although,
did.
to be fair, I feel like we had the same opinion going into the Vikings game. We were like, oh, they're not good at running the ball. And then they ran all over the 49ers. So
I don't think they ran over them. It's just those conversions. Madison didn't have a great game, and Akers had like some spear. It was just the passing
just like
game.
a few.
There was key plays. It was the third down.
Embarrassing. That one with Fred Warner, the 13-yarder on Fred Warner, that was.
Yeah, that's the thing. They had those impact running plays. It wasn't so much like a totality, like they were running the ball successfully. It was just when they needed to run the ball and get a good play, they did. But I don't have faith in the Bengals unit so much like that. It's more their pass game I'd be afraid of, especially after this past week. Like you just let Jordan Addison destroy you. He's a rookie. He had been a non-factor. Now you're going to face an all-pro in Chase, a pretty darn good receiver in Higgins. Again, down year, so maybe that plays into your. But if anything, this is a perfect breakout game for Higgins. His first breakout game of the season, and then Tyler Boyd. It's not looking good.
And Joe Burrow has been like progressing. I feel like a lot of people have been down on the Bengals because Joe Burrow.
His calf injury. Now he's got to rest it.
Yeah. He said, I think in today's or yesterday's press conference that he feels the best he's felt all season. Makes sense, and if you look at his play, he's like progressively gotten better as the last 2 games have happened. So not ideal. Don't love that. Now the Bengals defense isn't the best. So potentially if the 49ers could get their offense together, that would be great. Deebo Samuel's still going to be out. Do you trust that Kyle Shanahan will be able to scheme up George Kittle? Do you think George Kittle will be involved? Or do you think, nope, not a primetime game, so goodbye, George Kittle, you're blocking?
Yeah, I'm shorting George Kittle every week I can get. There's no way he's going to be a factor. It's going to be another.
Going into the fourth quarter, last game, he had like 3 touches. It was so frustrating. Why does Kyle Shanahan not use him? He is capable. Like, it's not like he's bad. Like, when his number is called, he shows up. It's so annoying.
I mean, he did have a few nice catches, but yeah, you would think it would be more. Again, I'm just holding on to my theory that he's waiting for a second half push to really start turning up the temperature on him to really start utilizing him. But again, you think if it was a game that you need, that you'd be good to use him now. Yeah, I'm sorting everything on that. It's just look, I know their defense hasn't been elite this year, but still, that defensive coordinator they have, Lou Oriema, whatever his last name is, he's pretty solid. He's a solid defensive coordinator that I think he could have some nice hiccups against the 49ers offense, who hasn't been clicking on the run game. Then you have to wonder, Purdy hasn't practiced. Is that going to play a factor?
And you're like team Purdy's going to play. So you're like looking at this from a Purdy's going to play and they're going to lose. See, I have more faith that if Purdy plays that they'll win. Although I did just make my argument that I think Kyle Shanahan wants to make Sam Darnold look good. Speaking of stories, it would be a interesting story if Darnold went out and balled against the Bengals. Mm. But he wouldn't do that. He would throw an interception. He's going to break Kyle's heart. Kyle's going to be so excited. He's going to be like, I have the perfect little game plan. He's going to look so good. And then Darnold's going to walk out there and throw them on the other team.
Sam Darnold's just a red or orange hair, whatever hair he has color. Jimmy Garoppolo. That's all he is.
Yeah. Worse. If you had to rank them, worse, right? Or just better team. If Sam Darnold had like Patriots and 49ers, would he be Jimmy G?
I probably lean Darnold might be slightly better just because he can move a little more.
I love that. I love
don't
that.
like
Shots fired.
Jimmy stinks.
Shots fired at Jimmy Garoppolo. I love.
I don't like the 49ers going into this game. I got a bad feeling again. It's just.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, if the 49ers, and I feel like this question might depend on who, or my answer would depend on which quarterback is starting. So we're going to go under the pretense that Brock Purdy is starting. If the 49ers fall to 5 or 3-5, 5-3, that's how you would say that. If they lose this game, do you think that this current stage of the team is strong enough to handle that? They've obviously started slow before and been able to have that like unity and build each other up and believe in Kyle Shanahan. But I feel like you can only make it to the top of the mountain and like fall so many times before doubt starts to creep in. And the vibe around this team is, you know what I mean? Like Nick Bosa is already kind of making comments about Wilks. I just feel like they might turn on each other a little bit sooner, but maybe I'm just being paranoid. What do you think? Do you think it'll be panic time for one, fans, and two, the actual players if the 49ers lose this game under?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be
Purdy
panic
starting?
time. I don't think they're capable of turning on each other like that. I can't ever see it. I just know they would just all pretty much be kicking themselves and saying like, yeah, we just freaking suck right now. We need it. They'll pretty much kick themselves in the ass. They won't point the finger. I don't think it's capable. But if they do lose, I'm looking at the schedule. I mean, they have Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, and Seattle. Seattle on Thursday night, Thanksgiving. I wouldn't feel too worried about that because I think they can easily get back on track with those 3 games.
You're not worried about Seattle? I feel like Seattle will be a good matchup because they have a really good secondary.
Stinks. I just I've watched 3, maybe even 4, 3 full games of them. Geno is half of what he was last year. He's still a fine quarterback, starting caliber, but he's definitely like 25-30% less of what he is. The run game's better or about the same. But yeah, I don't like them. I don't think the defense is that great. I think the 49ers could easily. Yeah, I'm not too worried about them. The only reason why I'm worried about them, that game, it's a short week on Thursday.
What did you think about them adding Frank Clark? Do you feel any?
Frank Clark stinks. He's washed. Okay. I don't consider him anything. He hasn't been good for like 2 years. But anyways, yeah, I wouldn't be worried if they lose this game because then you can go back like, okay, this time you actually lost to a solid team and one that came off a bye week. But I guess all depends how they lose.
They can't keep saying, "Oh, this was a good loss."
Well, they're not saying that. I'm saying we're saying that, but I don't think
Hufanga really did say that after not after the Browns game.
We said that about the Browns one. It was more like humbling, like it's to realize, like, hey, we can't be looking ahead, which is a little bit kind of feels like what they're doing.
What did they do against the Vikings? Like that talk is good.
That's what I'm saying. The Vikings one's a bad one because that team is no better than average, and they had what, like 1 win, 2 wins, something like that, and it's without their best player, so it's like that's the game you have to get, and you had an extra day, so I think that one was a bad loss. The Browns one you can live one, that one you cannot. So Bengals one, you're at home. If they get right and look solid, even in a close game, it's good. I think the only panic it would be is like, damn, when this team is in a close game and losing, are they capable of coming back? Because it doesn't matter. I know I saw a stat like, oh, Shanahan's 0-36.
Yeah, like they are front leader. They are
trailing by 8+ points in the fourth quarter. But to me, it's like, I'm not worried about that. It's like, what happens if they're trailing at halftime by like 7 or 10 points? Can they come back? I mean, yeah, they did that last year, but that was against the freaking Raiders, who can't play who can't play 4 quarters of anything. They can only play 2 quarters of the game, if that. I would be more concerned of like what happens if they're down, like the same thing as the last game. If they're down by 7 or 14 or 10, like at that point, like not too many teams are capable of coming back from 14 down or something like that. But
the thing is, the 49ers had opportunities to come back in that game too, but
yeah, it was just a lot of poor execution.
Did you question Kyle Shanahan's like belief in Brock Purdy when he chose to have Jake Moody kick the 55-yard?
No, I thought that was overreaction, which I think I heard Grant say something like that. That's Grant being Grant. It's like, dude, come on, what are you talking about? I feel like if he doesn't roll out Moody in that situation, we have a bigger problem than when the Purdy thing. Because it's like, okay, like now's the time for you to really try to give this guy another chance, because if we're still over here doubting him and now it's only week 7, we have a huge problem. We have a huge problem. Because imagine if he did not let him go out there and attempt to make
You're
that.
not doubting? You're not doubting Jake Moody right now?
No, I'm still doubting him, but I'm
Okay.
saying like if that thing that kick salvaged him now you feel like, okay, now that game did not look terrible. It just looked okay. Now there's definitely, it went from like zero confidence to okay, now there's shakeable confidence, because it's like, okay, hopefully you can use that to maybe catapult him. Maybe you look back and that use them. And I know I told you last week, I was like, if he goes in this game, he needs to bounce back, and maybe that's the game we look back on, and that catapulted him. And of course, he misses another 40-yard field goal, which some quack in my message tried saying, like, why didn't you look up the stats of who makes kicks in 40 yards at Cleveland Browns Stadium, which is stupid. Someone actually said that to me, like, okay, well, where's the stats on kicking in a dome? Anyways, I digress. But the point is, like, I feel like no, we had to see him in that moment kick that, because if it's week 7, we're still like, and we're already waving the white flag on him, my God, that's the real panic time here. Now we're like, oh, we had Brock Purdy in this down, we should have gone for, like, no. We need to see him make this, because there's going to be plenty of more times this season that the 49ers need Moody to come through than Purdy on clutch plays or clutch drives, something like that.
But my thing is, you want to install confidence in Brock Purdy. If Jake Moody sucks, call up Robbie Gould. No? Not a good solution?
But I don't think that's a shoe-in either.
Back. You can blame it all on me.
I don't think that's a shoe-in either, because I don't think there's a lack of confidence in Purdy. He didn't look like he lacked confidence in that game. I mean, he was fine until the fourth quarter, or even before after that hit.
True.
I'm not worried about Purdy.
I just felt like the offense was so stagnant, and they like had finally gotten down the field a little bit, that it felt disappointing that Kyle Shanahan. But I bet he, because there was it how much time was there? Like 13 minutes left. I bet he thought that they would have had like 2 more opportunities to get down the field. It just felt like it was so hard for them to get down there, and they needed a touchdown anyways. That the way I was thinking about it is, you should go try to get the touchdown. But I understood you also need 8 points. So I understood why they did it, but I did.
Yeah. I don't think that's an
indictment. I also understood the criticism.
I don't think that's an indictment on Purdy. If he had gone for it, that would have been a larger indictment of of Moody, than an indictment on Purdy for not going for the field goal. So I think, good on him, because that salvaged his night, and he desperately needed that. Because right now, whose mentality are you more afraid of right now in confidence, Moody or Purdy?
Definitely Moody.
Exactly. So
even after making the 50-yard field goal,
you need to get him out there.
Yeah. Purdy, that's the one thing. Do you think that his confidence has shaken at all with these last couple losses? Because I think his one of his number one qualities is like his unbelievable confidence in himself. Whether or not he, like his rookie year, you're like, who are you and why are you like pounding on your chest as if you're a first-round pick right now?
Now there was like a stretch in that game where I was like, he feels a little shaken, but ultimately I didn't feel like, he broke or I had doubts.
Do you think if Sam Darnold comes in and wins the game, that then his confidence is going to be shaken?
No, I think he just goes back in. I think if anything, it's like, great. Well, if he does that and Shanahan continues to go the hot hand, I think, look,
that would be crazy. I just
don't trust Shanahan.
The only way that Shanahan would do that, in my opinion, it would not be out of the bye week. There's no way. What would have to happen is Darnold would have to ball against the Bengals, and then they'd have to start Purdy again, and Purdy would have to do poorly. And then they could be like, oh, the elbow that he told Troy Aikman about. By the way, Kyle Shanahan, when asked about that, was like, he is not mentioned.
Yeah, that was a nugget.
Which to me is kind of red flaggy. I'm like, why are you telling the announcer something that you have not told your coach?
I just wondered, like, the funny thing is, I think Purdy trusted Aikman not to, like, say that on
Yeah, why did he do that?
Because he has to. What do you mean he has to say it? Why does he care? They're gonna keep telling him.
Why did Purdy trust him?
Oh, I don't know.
Like, that he probably like said that hella casually and was like, "This isn't gonna be a problem." Like,
yeah, because those announcers like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, they do get like an hour to talk with the player or something like that. I don't know exact time, but they do get a little bit of time to talk with them, like on Friday or something like that, or Zoom call, whatever. I don't know how, but it's like they ask some formal questions and a lot of things under the table. So I think. I don't know. It really depends on how he actually asked if it was like legit or not. We don't know because it's not broadcasted. It's never shown. But
like Troy Aikman wouldn't make that up. So I
No, he
like
definitely didn't make
100%
that up.
believe. Yeah, I 100% believe he said it. I wonder if Kyle did, like, when he denied it, was like denying it because he doesn't want to talk about it, or because he pretty genuinely hasn't told Kyle that, which would be problematic.
Well, I don't think.
Or maybe Purdy meant it. Maybe because people are kind of taking it as like his elbow is still sore. Maybe he just meant it in the way that like he believes he can make his arm even stronger with like an off season of like.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
worried about his arm because it hasn't looked like that much of an issue this season.
Yeah, I feel like it's like the same.
Yeah, until it starts looking like blatant, it's like, okay, yeah, you know what? Like, so far as a passer, he's been fine. It's just more so like where he's going with the ball and the processing that kind of looked a little shaky the last 2 weeks, if anything. And some skittish throws like against Browns where he's overthrowing and being inaccurate, but that was just chalk it up to a bad day because he didn't really have too much of that against the Vikings like he did against the Browns.
Do you think, because we're gonna end this soon, but you were just talking about your betting and how much you like it. Do you think that Purdy's gonna throw, if Purdy plays, do you think he'll throw an interception? Sorry, I came up with an idea. Do you think he'll throw an interception? Do you think that there's a possibility that Purdy could get benched in this game if he's playing poorly and they could blame it on his concussion?
He's not going to get benched,
drama.
And he's not going to throw a pick. I don't think he's going to throw a pick.
If they wouldn't bench him, they'd be like, oh, like he's like his head is still messed up.
No, if they do that, you know how bad they're going to look for playing him out there? If that's going to be their cop-out, they're going to be like, oh, well, he's like, what? Then why the hell did you play him out there? What? Like, no, the freaking, they're going to get, oh, no, that's going to be a PR hell for them. So, no, he's not. There's no way in hell he gets benched, even if he throws 4 picks. Actually, maybe if he throws 4 picks, but I don't think he's going to throw any picks.
That was a lot.
I think he might be a little more careful.
Sam Darnold has thrown 4 picks in a game. Why is he the guy that Shanahan believes in so much?
Because he's picturing
his offense. We all got to get ourselves a someone has to believe in us the way that Kyle Shanahan believes in Sam Darnold. Do you think that Trent Williams will play? You said no, right? Same. What does this guy say? Same coach high school? What are they referring to? I don't know. I don't know either. But this guy says, if Sam Darnold plays and wins, the media will say there might be a QB competition. Probably.
1,000%.
Jose is in the media, and he likes to stir up those narratives. I will also do that.
I only said if they win.
I think it's fun. It's
like
he plays impressive. To be a story.
We are no shit. We're content creators overall, or people who create topics or discuss or evaluate that. It's like, yeah, the point is to start discussion, and it's your choice to engage in that.
It's not like people are pulling it out of nowhere. Like Kyle Shanahan
has
like
done
a
this
quarterback.
Before. It's more my lack of trust in Shanahan, not in Purdy or faith in Darnold. It's just like I don't trust Shanahan. He can't evaluate the quarterback position. He doesn't know what he's doing.
I think he would lose the locker room if he did it right after the bye week. Like I think the only way he could do it, like continue to ride with the hot hand, is if the players genuinely believed that Brock Purdy was still concussed. But Brock Purdy is playing today, so I don't think that the team would get on back. Like Fred Warner, I just said he on his podcast came out, called him the real deal. Brandon Ayuk and Bosa have all made similar comments. I think Kyle has by trading away Lance, by uniting Purdy as the guy. I just think that the team, because then what happens if Sam has a bad game? Like you're never going to win a Super Bowl if you can't just pick a guy and stick with him for 1 year. Didn't this offseason George Kittle was like, I've never played a season with one quarterback. I just want to have one quarterback. So I don't think that they would do that unless there was a medical injury that the team would believe.
If he wants to
unless Purdy played really bad multiple times.
If he wants to play one quarterback, the 49ers have to get Kirk Cousins. He doesn't miss games. And Shanahan would never bench Kirk.
He would never bench Kirk. He's so in love with him. I was so team
and then he shops that Old Navy.
I was so team he's moved on to Purdy. Same high school. Oh, okay. I get what this guy was saying. They had the same high school QB coach. They have trust.
Oh yeah, that's right. They said that on the thing. So yeah, there's a little bit of mutual connection there.
That's probably why he did it. But Purdy, you're such a rookie, man. Can't let these people sweet talk you.
Whatever. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Letting my guard down. Now Monday Night Football. Troy Aikman's airing out your dirty laundry.
I don't think it's that big of a deal, to be honest.
I don't think so either, but it will be if he gets benched.
He's
What if
not
he
getting
gets benched?
benched.
And they're like, it's because of his elbow. I know. I don't think he will either. I think what's likely to happen is if Darnold starts, they'll lose. If Purdy starts, they might lose anyways, but they might win. And there'll be no competition because Darnold's a bad quarterback. Like Kyle's wrong. Like I love that Kyle believes in Sam Darnold, but like I don't think these hypotheticals can happen because in order for them to get there, Sam Darnold has to like ball out, and I don't see that happening.
Yeah, he'd have to play, which I don't think is happening either.
Yeah, I know you don't think that. Which I mean, like I said, whatever water Purdy is drinking, what is it down in Santa Clara? He has roommates. We got to go drink that tap water, man. Have some healing powers.
Well, there's people who come back from concussions the day after and are fine. Concussions are the most volatile thing or most random thing anyone can endure. So,
okay. Yeah, you said you
everyone's
had
different with that.
Okay. Well, I had a good time with you today, Jose, and I had a good time with everyone in the comments. I saw my dad in there, but I'm not going to read his comment because I feel like that's embarrassing. But I had such a good time streaming with you. It was cool to see Brock Purdy out there. I like that happened right before our thing. I like that we chose to go a little bit later so we could figure that out. I'm excited to see how this game goes and to recap it with you probably earlier on in the week next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. If your knee's doing better.
I hope so.
Perfect. Okay, everyone, like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll have new stuff coming out over the weekend and on Sunday, of course. And follow Jose on Twitter and read all of his articles. I read 2 of them right before the stream. They are always so good. He's been putting out like 1 million of them recently. So definitely go check all those out and have a good weekend, everyone. Bye. I always end these